Chosen one, what if I told you that your loneliness isn't a flaw? It's a sign that you've been set apart for something greater. They have watched you retreat into the quiet, hoping you'd settle for a life of unnoticed purpose and hidden potential. You've felt the sting of being the odd one out, of conversations that ended just as you began to speak, of walls closing in when your spirit longed to soar. But hear this, you are not alone, and your solitude is far more meaningful than you've been led to believe. Hidden truths are coming to light, truths that will reveal why every moment of discomfort, every pang of isolation, has been crafting your strength. In this video, you'll discover why your very sensitivity is their greatest fear, why your absence among the crowd is a divine strategy, and how your path has always been guided by a higher purpose. If this message already speaks to your soul, subscribe, like this video, and comment 77 below. Stay with me, because by the end you will see yourself not as broken, but as divinely empowered. The divine separation versus rejection. You felt the sting of being the odd one out, like your spirit doesn't quite belong in the spaces where others laugh and gather. You've sat on the edge of crowded rooms, your heart pounding with the desire to connect, only to pull back at the last second, convinced you'd never fit in. You've whispered prayers in the dark, asking why you feel this constant pull toward solitude when everyone else seems to find comfort in companionship. You're not a stranger to rejection, yet this isn't just social awkwardness or insecurity. It's something deeper, a call you can't ignore. You are not alone in this sacred tension between belonging and being set apart. There is a divine purpose woven into your separation, and what you're about to discover will reveal why your distance from the crowd has been the very crucible where your true identity was forged. Think back to the moments when you reached out for connection only to feel invisible hands push you away. You offered your heart in friendship and found doors closing with no explanation. You sought counsel for your dreams and were met with skepticism, or worse, indifference. Each failed attempt to belong left you with a hollow ache, as if you were chasing shadows. In those quiet, empty hours, you began to question whether your feelings of alienation were a burden you had to bear alone. You wondered if your sensitivity made you too fragile for the world, and if you'd ever be able to step into the destiny you sensed dripping from your bones. Yet every pang of loneliness, every unanswered call, was shaping you for a calling far greater than mere acceptance among peers. Your separation has never been random punishment, but a divine preparation for a ministry no one else could fulfill. Consider the lesser-known story of Bezalel in Exodus 31 verses 1-6, the craftsman called by God to build the tabernacle. He was chosen, not because he fit in with the artisans around him, but because he carried a unique gift in the quiet recesses of his heart. While others labored at common tasks, his skill was being fashioned in solitude for a purpose that would house the glory of God. Like Bezalel, your time apart has been the workshop where the master potter, your maker, has molded your spirit, honing your gifts in the silence that felt like rejection but was actually preparation for sacred service. Already, you may notice subtle shifts in your inner world that hint at this divine separation becoming your advantage. You find yourself dwelling in thought with clarity and creativity that crowds cannot afford. Ideas you once feared to voice now swirl with conviction, as if your solitude has been giving birth to a wisdom that can only emerge apart from noise. Your spiritual antennae, once dulled by the clamor of social demands, now tuned to frequencies others cannot hear. Insights, promptings, and revelations that guide your steps. Imagine a lighthouse stationed on a lonely shore, its light unnoticed by passing ships until the fog lifts. That light is you, shining brightest when all around is still. Behind these shifts lies a tapestry of divine intervention aligning every aspect of your life to affirm your separation as elevation. Your solitude was never a vacuum, but a sacred space where heaven's whisper could be heard above the world's roar. Think of Huldah the prophetess in 2 Kings 22 verses 14-20, whose life of quiet devotion in Jerusalem's temple library positioned her to deliver a message that changed a nation. She wasn't on the throne or in the palace, yet her secluded faith gave her authority when kings sought wisdom. In your own life, synchronicities have aligned. Chance meetings that feel providential, resources appearing just as you needed them, and dreams resurfacing exactly when you're ready to act. Each alignment is proof that your separation was not abandonment but an invitation to step into authority. And yet, standing at this threshold of revelation, you may still question whether you deserve to emerge from solitude. Many resist the release from separation, fearing that stepping into public purpose will expose them to the very rejection they've tried to escape. They cling to the safety of privacy, even when it suffocates their growth. But true alignment demands more than recognizing divine signals. It requires embracing the fullness of who you were shaped to be. Imagine a seed encased in darkness, resisting the push towards sunlight, forgetting that its design includes transformation into a towering tree. This is your sacred moment to trust the process, to step into a broader narrative where your separation becomes the launchpad for your destiny. Now that you understand the power of your separation, it's time to engage it intentionally. Release the guilt that tells you you've been too aloof, and discard the fear that whispers you're unfit for influence. Speak declarations over your life. You are chosen, equipped, and ready to serve. Carve out practices that honor your divine solitude, daily reflection, focused study, or creative worship, while preparing to share the fruits of those practices with the world. Reach out to those who recognize your calling, join circles where your insights matter, and let your emergence become an offering to those still waiting in the wings. Each act of faith bridges the gap between separation and service, ensuring that your gifts fulfill the purpose for which they were crafted. Your journey from perceived rejection to empowered separation is not only your story but a beacon for others who feel unseen and unheard. When you step into your true identity, the one shaped in silence, you embolden countless souls to recognize their own divine separations as places of power. Share your testimony with authenticity, and watch how your emergence stirs hope in hearts that once lay dormant. Let your light become the signal fire that calls wandering chosen ones out of the shadows into their own godly assignments. Comment separate if you claim your solitude as the soil from which your purpose blooms. The world awaits the unveiling of your sacred separation turned unstoppable service. And special thanks to our faithful members who've embraced this journey with us. Mid-video CTA. And if you feel called to go even deeper, there's a sacred space reserved for our community. A private room where you receive full prophetic messages daily. Join our private membership through the link in the description and walk this path with us. Energy sensitivity and empathic overload. You've walked into a crowded room and felt it immediately, the weight of every unspoken burden pressing on your shoulders. You've looked at friends laughing and wondered how their joy could feel so distant when your heart ached with unseen pain. Every conversation drains you because you pick up emotions like a radio scanning its frequencies, tuning into sorrow, anger, and doubt that aren't even yours. You've tried to explain it only to be told you're too sensitive, that you should toughen up or stop overthinking. But this isn't weakness. It's the mark of someone who carries the world inside. You are not alone in this struggle, and your sensitivity holds a secret power that the world desperately needs. But first, you must understand its purpose. Remember the nights you lay awake, replaying interactions from the day and feeling every nuance of someone else's mood in your bones. You've left gatherings feeling more exhausted than after a marathon, convinced you'd given away all your energy. You've been accused of being moody or overly emotional, when in truth you were simply experiencing the undercurrents that swirl beneath polite smiles. You've wrestled with guilt for feeling overwhelmed, believing that your empathic heart was a curse rather than a gift. In those lonely moments, you questioned whether you would ever find peace or fit anywhere. Yet every tear you shed for someone else's hidden sorrow was preparing you to become a vessel of healing and discernment, a bridge between broken hearts and the comfort they crave. This empathic overload is not a random malfunction of your personality, but a divine preparation for sacred service. Consider the story of Barnabas in Acts 4 verses 36 to 37. A man whose heart broke for those in need so deeply that he sold his land to support the early church. Barnabas earned the name Son of Encouragement because his empathy compelled him into action, forging unity amid fear and division. Your own experiences of absorbing others' pain are refining you into a modern-day Barnabas, equipped to lift fallen spirits and kindle hope where despair runs rampant. Each wave of emotion you've weathered has strengthened your capacity to carry burdens intentionally, preparing you for a mission that requires the kind of compassion only a sensitive heart can wield. Even now, you may notice subtle shifts that signal your empathy is transforming into empowered service. You find yourself drawn to people who appear fine on the surface but carry hidden wounds, and you have just the words to offer solace. Your insights into others' struggles bring clarity to chaotic situations, as if you hold a lantern where shadows once ruled. You may see opportunities to extend kindness, like cooking a meal for someone who's grieving or simply sitting in silent prayer with a friend, only to discover that these small acts ignite ripples of restoration you never expected. It's as though your emotional antennae now direct you to exactly where your gift is needed, aligning you with divine assignments you once thought were out of reach. Behind these shifts, higher forces are orchestrating every detail to affirm that your sensitivity is no accident but a core element of your calling. They have been using your empathic overload as the soil in which your gift takes root, planting synchronicities that guide you to the right person at the right time. Just as God used the compassionate heart of Tabitha, also known as Dorcas, in Acts 9 verses 36 to 42 to clothe widows and display good works, prompting Peter to restore her life from the dead. Your acts of kindness and your deep empathy are pulling blessings and people toward you. Unseen hands clear your path. Doors open where you thought none existed. Mentors appear when you feel most vulnerable, and your own healing follows in the wake of helping others. Your faith in these divine alignments is the key that unlocks the full power of your gift. Yet standing at the edge of this calling, many hesitate, afraid that stepping into their gift will expose them to more overwhelm or criticism. They cling to the safety of unnoticed pain rather than embrace the spotlight their service demands. But true alignment demands more than witnessing signs. It requires full embodiment of your empathic identity. Imagine a healer standing at the threshold of a sick room, hesitating to enter because they fear the disease might infect them. Your gift is your armor, not your vulnerability. This is your sacred moment to decide. Will you shield your heart behind walls of self-protection, or will you open yourself fully, trusting that the same power that brought you through empathic storms will sustain you as you walk into your purpose? Now that you recognize the divine orchestration behind your sensitivity, it's time to take intentional steps toward empowered service. Release the doubt that questions your strength and the fear that magnifies your overwhelm. Speak declarations of purpose over your life. Affirm that your empathy equips you to heal, to lead, to shine light into dark places. Cultivate healthy boundaries that sustain you, like scheduled times for rest, prayer, and reflection, so that you can pour out without pouring out yourself. Seek training and community that refine your gift. Study emotional intelligence, engage in spiritual mentorship, and join circles where your sensitivity is celebrated, not shamed. With each deliberate choice, you transform empathic overload from burden into brilliance. Your journey from empathic exhaustion to empowered leadership is not just your personal story. It is the spark that ignites collective healing. When you step fully into your sensitive heart, you become a living testament that compassion is strength, not weakness. Your life will inspire others to reclaim their own empathy, to see their emotional depth as divine currency rather than a flaw to hide. Share your experiences openly and watch how those around you find courage to embrace their own gifts. Comment sensitive if you recognize this calling stirring within you and are ready to move from empathic overload to empowered service. The world awaits the healing only your heart can bring. Step forward with confidence, and let your sensitivity blaze the trail for others to follow. And to every soul who's supported with a super thanks, thank you. You are keeping this light alive for others who haven't found it yet. If you feel called to help this mission reach more chosen ones, tap the super thanks button below. Your energy supports these messages and helps them travel further. Your voice matters, your belief matters, and your light is felt here. Mid-video CTA, biblical validation of solitude. You felt the weight of empty rooms pressing in on you, that ache in your chest when the chatter of others flickers and dies, leaving you alone with your thoughts. You've questioned why your heart races at the thought of small talk, why deep connection seems to elude you even when you long for it most. You've wondered if your isolation means you've failed at belonging, if your solitude is a flaw to fix rather than a gift to uncover. Know this, you are not the only chosen one who has felt the pinch of loneliness. Many before you have walked these silent paths and discovered hidden realms of strength and revelation. Today, you will learn why your times alone are not emptiness but sacred preparation, why the very silence that intimidates others becomes the secret chamber where destiny is reshaped, and why every moment you spent seemingly forgotten was, in fact, laying the foundation for your greatest assignments. Remember the nights you stared at the ceiling, replaying conversations until they felt meaningless, your mind alive with the echo of every unspoken word. You felt the sting of unanswered texts, counted the minutes by the hush of your own breathing, and prayed for companionship that never arrived. You've poured your heart into friendships that crumbled under the weight of misunderstanding, and you've watched potential mentors drift away as if your presence was too unsettling. In those hours, you wrestled with fear that your purpose would never find expression, that your voice would remain trapped in lonely corridors. Yet every tear shed in secret, every breath drawn in solitude, was an investment in a deeper intimacy with the divine. You were never truly alone, for the same spirit that spoke creation into being was whispering truth into the ear of your soul. Your isolation has never been random punishment. It is a deliberate design in your spiritual training. Look beyond the well-known narratives to the story of King Jehoiakim in 2 Kings 25 verses 27 to 30, who languished in Babylonian exile for 37 years before elevation to a place of honor. Abandoned by his kingdom and cast aside by history, he remained steadfast in a foreign throne room. His solitude became the crucible of royal character. Likewise, your hidden seasons have been crafting qualities that cannot be developed in the bustle of crowds. Unwavering faith when no one cheers, courage when no one witnesses, and a soul attuned to the faintest whisper of eternity. Each quiet dawn you welcomed alone was a signal flare to heaven, poised to ignite your next breakthrough when the appointed time arrived. Even now, subtle tremors of transformation ripple across your circumstances, confirming that your sacred solitude has not gone unnoticed. You may find that insights arrive when you journal in the early morning hush, ideas that eluded you in noisy brainstorming sessions. You might notice doors opening for one-on-one encounters, where crowded meetings yield little fruit. Perhaps a mentor appears in a private message, offering guidance precisely when you felt most adrift. These internal and external shifts are the gentle roll of thunder that precedes a mighty storm of purpose. Picture a seed buried in darkness, gathering strength unseen, until at last it breaks through the soil in a burst of green. Your life is set to emerge from the hush into a landscape of fulfillment, shaped by the unseen vigils you kept. Behind these visible signs lies a symphony of divine orchestration aligning every thread of your journey. Your periods of isolation were never tests to break you but gateways to elevation. Think of Uriah the Hittite in 2 Samuel 11-12, whose unnoticed loyalty in the king's own army positioned him, through sacrifice and redemption, as part of the lineage leading to the Messiah. Though his story begins in obscurity and betrayal, it grows into a vital chapter in divine history. In the same way, the prayers you offered in secret, the disciplines you pursued away from prying eyes, and the character you built in solitude have curated a network of heavenly connections that now converge to platform you for influence. Every synchronistic encounter, every timely word that finds your inbox, is a note in the score of your ascension. Standing at this threshold of revelation, many hesitate, fearing that stepping out of solitude will expose them to heartbreak all over again. They cling to the safety of invisibility rather than risk the vulnerability required by purpose. But true alignment demands more than witnessing the signs. It requires full embodiment of the role for which you were refined. Imagine Elijah at Korath Ravine, sustained by ravens in complete isolation, 1 Kings 17 verses 2-6. He could have clung to the birds as his only supporters, but he trusted the next instruction, to go to Zarephath, to minister and to multiply what he had been given. Your solitude has been a training ground for obedience. Now is the sacred moment to step out, trusting that the same voice that guided you into quiet will guide you into your calling with unshakable clarity. Now that you recognize your isolation as divine validation, it's time to engage your next steps with courage and intention. Release the lie that solitude equates to disfavor, and discard the fear that your gifts will wither in the light. Speak declarations over your life. Affirm that you are equipped to fulfill your mission, that your service will spring from wells first drawn in secret. Carve out rhythms that honor both your reflective seasons and your public assignments. Balance prayerful preparation with active outreach. Seek out spaces and relationships where your heightened awareness is welcomed, where the fruits of your solitude, wisdom, creativity, compassion, can flourish and multiply. Each deliberate step into community will transform your season of waiting into a springboard for impact. Your journey from isolation to activation becomes more than personal triumph. It becomes the torch that lights the way for others trapped in loneliness. When you share the fruits of your hidden work, unsolicited insights, acts of kindness born from hearsay, and the quiet peace you carry, you teach others that their own seasons of solitude are not to be escaped but embraced. Your life stands as living proof that withdrawal can precede victory, that reflection births revelation, and that sacred counsel often takes place in the stillness before dawn. Comment solitude if you claim your times alone as holy interludes that prepare you for public purpose. The world awaits the emergence of your finely honed gifts. Step forth and let your light shine where others have feared to tread. Silence as a spiritual strategy. You felt the world's noise closing in on you. The constant barrage of notifications, the endless chatter that never pauses, the pressure to respond faster, do more, and be everywhere at once. In the middle of all this cacophony, your soul aches for a quiet place where you can hear your own heartbeat. You've wrestled with the doubt that maybe you're simply not cut out for normal life, that your longing for silence makes you odd or broken. You've tried to drown out the overwhelm with busy work, only to wake up each morning more frustrated and empty. But know this, you are not alone in craving a sacred hush. Many chosen ones have discovered that the very quiet they feared was a gift, a strategic refuge where deeper truths are revealed. Today, we will uncover why silence is not absence but the furnace where your purpose is refined, why the stillness you dread holds the keys to your next steps, and how every moment of solitude has been setting the stage for your greatest breakthroughs. Think back to the moments when you desperately tried to block out your own thoughts, chasing distraction after distraction to escape the itch of introspection. You've binge-watched shows, scrolled through endless feeds, and crowded your schedule until you dropped into bed exhausted, but still restless. In those rare seconds when your mind stilled, a million questions swirled. What am I really meant to do? Why does my life feel like a series of false starts? You've berated yourself for not fitting into the world's pace, convinced that your restlessness was a character flaw rather than a compass pointing to deeper longing. Yet each attempt to silence your spirit with noise only increased the tension inside, revealing how vital it is to reconnect with the whispers of your own soul. This inner ferment, this gnawing urgency, is evidence that the noise of the world has been drowning out something infinitely more important. Your struggle with distraction and overwhelm is not a random failure of willpower, but part of a divine blueprint designed to lead you into the power of stillness. Consider the story of Zephaniah, the prophet who, in Zephaniah 1 verse 7, is called to be silent before the Lord God, for the day of the Lord is near. In that quiet command, he learns that God's voice is found not in the tumult of life, but in the hush that precedes judgment and restoration. Zephaniah's preparation in the silence equipped him to speak with clarity when nations trembled. Likewise, your restless seasons have been rehearsals for a covenant conversation, where silence becomes the conduit for hearing divine direction. The very urges you've tried to suppress are the signals guiding you back to sacred stillness. Now, even as you begin to embrace this call to silence, you will start to notice subtle but unmistakable shifts around you, the first gentle ripples of change before a tidal wave of revelation. You wake up earlier without setting an alarm, drawn to the quiet before dawn. In those still moments, words that once eluded you flow into your mind with surprising ease. Ideas for projects, solutions to problems, or simply a fresh sense of peace. You may find that when you stop seeking answers externally, insight arrives naturally. A mentor reaches out, a book falls off the shelf that speaks directly to your dilemma, or a conversation in your mind crystallizes into a clear plan. These are not coincidences but the unmistakable signs of divine timing, aligning your inner and outer worlds so that revelation emerges from the womb of stillness. Behind these signs, an intricate tapestry of divine intervention is being woven to clear your path for purpose. your seasons of forced silence, moments when words failed you or circumstances shut you away, were never punishments but strategic retreats orchestrated by a higher hand. Think of the story of Habakkuk in Habakkuk 2 verse 1, where the prophet stands on the watchpost in quiet expectation, ready to hear what God will say. That posture of calm vigilance allowed him to receive visions that reshaped an entire culture's understanding of justice. In your own life, each enforced pause, whether through setback, solitude, or discouragement, has been a divine invitation to stand watch, eliminating distractions so that the message of your mission could come through clearly. Your faith in these hidden workings is the seed that manifests divine alignment. As these revelations gather momentum, you may feel a tremor of fear, the fear that stepping fully into divine stillness means losing control, exposing your heart to uncertainty, or being unproductive by the world's standards. Many resist divine change because they equate silence with stagnation, fearing that nothing happens unless they are busy. But true spiritual strategy demands that you trade frantic activity for focused listening. Imagine an archer drawing back the string. Without that momentary pause, the arrow could not hit its mark. Your willingness to delay output until clarity arrives ensures that your aim is true and your action is empowered, not haphazard. This is your sacred moment of decision. Will you cling to the comfort of noise, or will you embrace the transformative power of intentional stillness? Now that you sense the shift toward revelation, it's time to take practical steps to integrate silence as your spiritual strategy. Release the guilt that says silence is selfish, and reject the lie that busyness equals worth. Declare affirmations over your life. I receive clarity in the quiet, and I trust the still place where God speaks. Establish rhythms that protect your solitude, whether it's a daily appointment with the dawn, a midday pause for reflection, or an evening ritual of journaling in silence. Create physical spaces that invite hushed focus. A corner with soft lighting, a chair away from screens, or a walk in nature where you can listen without interruption. Surround yourself with accountability partners who understand the value of sacred hush and encourage you to stay committed when distractions threaten to pull you back. Your embrace of silence as a strategic spiritual tool will not only clear your own path, but will become a beacon for others hungry for direction. When you share your transformation, how waiting in quiet brought the breakthrough you craved, how revelation emerged when you stopped chasing noise, you offer a guidebook for those still stumbling in the dark. Your journey from overwhelm to insight will inspire countless souls to reclaim the sacred hush that births vision and ignites purpose. Comment silence if you've sensed this holy hush calling your name, and let your story light the way for those still seeking the stillness where God's whispers become guiding commands. The world is clamoring for distraction, but you stand at the threshold of revelation. Step forward and embrace your divine strategy of silence. Sensitivity as a divine gift. You've lived every day feeling every nuance of the world around you, as though your heart is tuned to frequencies others can't hear. You step into a crowded room and feel the weight of unspoken sorrows pressing on your chest. A simple smile from a friend can send warmth through your veins, and a harsh word can cut deeper than you ever expected. You've been told to toughen up, to build walls, to stop feeling so much. But that advice only leaves you more isolated, more frustrated, as if your very essence is a mistake. Let me reassure you, you are not alone in this sensitive life. Your keen heart is not a flaw. It's the lens through which truth shines brightest, the conduit for compassion that the world desperately needs. And today you will discover why this gift is your greatest strength, how it has been shaping your purpose in ways you've only begun to sense. Think back to the moments when someone's hidden pain took you by surprise, when a loved one's casual farewell left you hollow with dread. You've sat quietly as others laughed, feeling a pang of sorrow you couldn't explain because you didn't know whose grief it was. You've offered a shoulder that became soaked with tears no one else noticed, and you've prayed in the night, asking why you carry burdens you didn't earn. Subscribe if you haven't yet, like this video, and comment "I am chosen" to let this message anchor in your soul. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Thank you to all supporting members. Your faith fuels this mission. For full prophetic revelations daily, join the membership via the link in the description. Your spiritual path deserves more than fragments. Step into the full light. And if this message moved you deeply, consider tapping the Super Thanks button to support the mission. Every Super Thanks fuels the light we're spreading together. Walk forward in your destiny, chosen one.